It was a typical Monday morning. I stretched, ready to tackle the day, but as soon as I looked out my window, my heart sank. There it was again, Karen's car, parked right in the middle of my driveway, completely blocking my own vehicle. At first, I couldn't believe it. This wasn't the first time it had happened, and I had already politely asked her to stop. But clearly, Karen wasn't the type to respect boundaries. I stood there for a moment, debating whether to knock on her door or just call a tow truck right away. Little did I know, this situation was about to spiral out of control in ways I never imagined. When Karen first moved into the neighborhood, she seemed friendly enough. We exchanged the usual pleasantries, and I didn't think much of it. Maplewood Heights was a quiet community, full of kind and respectful people who minded their own business. It was the kind of place where you never worried about petty things like parking disputes. That all changed within weeks of Karen moving in. The first time I noticed her car in my driveway, I thought it was an honest mistake. Maybe she had guests over and parking was tight, no big deal. I knocked on her door and politely asked her to move it. She smiled, apologized, and promised it wouldn't happen again. For a while, I believed her. Then it happened again, and again. Every time, she had a different excuse. Oh, I'll only be here for a few minutes. There was no parking on the street. I was running late and didn't think you'd mind. At first, I tried to be patient. Maybe she didn't realize how inconvenient it was for me. But soon, the excuses started wearing thin. She wasn't parking for just a few minutes. Sometimes, it was hours. Once, she even left her car there overnight, blocking my garage and making me late for work. That was the first time I seriously considered calling a tow truck. But I gave her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she was going through something and didn't mean to be inconsiderate. I was wrong. Karen didn't stop. In fact, her behavior escalated. Every conversation we had about it ended the same way, her brushing me off and doing exactly what she wanted. The final straw came one morning when I had an important meeting to attend. I was running late, and as I grabbed my keys and headed for the door, I saw Karen's car blocking me in again. I knocked on her door, harder than usual. She didn't answer. I waited for a few minutes, pacing back and forth, growing more frustrated by the second. Finally, I had to call a cab to get to my meeting. All the while, I couldn't stop thinking about Karen's car sitting in my driveway, mocking me. That evening, I decided enough was enough. I knocked on her door again. When she finally opened it, she acted as if she had no idea what I was talking about. "Oh, was that today? I totally forgot," she said with a laugh as if it was some big joke. I took a deep breath and calmly told her that this couldn't happen again. She nodded, but I could tell from her expression that she wasn't taking me seriously. The next morning, her car was back in my driveway. I stood there, staring at it, my blood boiling. Clearly, she thought I wouldn't do anything about it. She thought she could keep getting away with it because I'd been too nice. Well, not anymore. This time, I didn't knock on her door. I didn't call out to her. I called a tow truck. As I watched the tow truck pull up, a strange mix of emotions washed over me. Part of me felt guilty. What if I was overreacting? But a bigger part of me felt justified. I had tried everything to resolve this peacefully, and Karen had left me no choice. The tow truck driver gave me a knowing smile as he hooked up her car. "You're doing the right thing," he said. "People like that never stop unless you show them there are consequences." As the truck drove away with Karen's car, I wondered how she'd react. I expected her to be angry, but I had no idea just how far she'd take things. Karen found out almost immediately that her car had been towed. I wasn't surprised when, just 20 minutes later, there was a rapid, angry pounding at my front door. I took a deep breath before opening it. There she was, Karen, her face flushed with rage, arms crossed, tapping her foot impatiently. "Where's my car?" she demanded, her voice a mix of frustration and indignation. "Your car," I said, pretending to be confused. "Oh, you mean the car that's been blocking my driveway for the past 2 days?" "Yeah, I had it towed." Her eyes widened in disbelief. "You what?" she screeched. "You had no right to do that. You should have told me first." I crossed my arms. "Karen, I told you several times not to park there. I even knocked on your door this morning. You didn't answer. What did you expect me to do? Wait all day while you blocked me in again?" Karen's anger exploded. "You're a terrible neighbor," she spat. "Do you have any idea how inconvenient this is for me?" I couldn't help but laugh at the irony. "Inconvenient for you, Karen? It's my driveway. You've made my life a nightmare for weeks, and I've been more than patient. I warned you, but you ignored me. This is the result." She stared at me, clearly trying to come up with a counterargument, but failing. Instead, she muttered something under her breath and stormed off, slamming her front door behind her. I stood there for a few seconds, expecting her to come back out. But she didn't. I thought that maybe, just maybe, this would be the end of it. I couldn't have been more wrong. I should have known that Karen wasn't the type to accept consequences gracefully. The next morning, I stepped outside to find my mailbox smashed. The wooden post was snapped in half, and my mail was scattered across the yard. I stared at the wreckage, my jaw tightening. Coincidence? Not a chance. I took a deep breath and pulled out my phone, snapping pictures from multiple angles. Then I turned toward Karen's house. She was already watching me from her front porch, arms crossed, a smug expression plastered on her face. "Oh no," she called out mockingly. "What happened to your mailbox?" I clenched my fists but forced myself to stay calm. "You tell me, Karen." She gasped theatrically. "Are you accusing me of something?" "I don't know," I said, slipping my phone into my pocket. "But I'm sure my security cameras will tell me everything." Her smirk faltered for just a split second before she quickly recovered. "Well, good luck with that." I didn't respond. Instead, I walked back inside and immediately checked the footage. Sure enough, around 2:30 a.m., a shadowy figure crept onto my lawn with a baseball bat. The footage wasn't perfectly clear, but the shape and silhouette looked awfully familiar. This was war now. I wasted no time. By noon, I was sitting across from Officer Reynolds at the local police station, showing him the footage on my phone. "So you're saying you suspect your neighbor?" he asked, rubbing his chin as he watched the replay. I nodded. "She's been harassing me for weeks. She's mad because I had her car towed after she kept illegally parking in my driveway." Reynolds let out a sigh. Typical neighborhood dispute turned nasty. "It's more than that," I said firmly. "This is intentional property damage. I want to press charges." He nodded. "We can start by filing a report and having a patrol car make the rounds in your area. If you get clearer footage, we can push for vandalism charges." I left the station feeling somewhat satisfied. If Karen wanted to escalate this, she was about to learn that I wasn't going to just roll over. But I also knew she wouldn't stop there. And I was right. The next day, I received an official-looking letter taped to my door. HOA violation notice. I nearly laughed out loud. I wasn't even part of the HOA. I unfolded the letter and skimmed through it. The notice claimed that my property was out of compliance with neighborhood aesthetics due to excessive damage to personal property. In other words, Karen had reported my broken mailbox to the HOA, hoping they'd come after me instead of her. Unbelievable. I marched over to the HOA office, letter in hand. The receptionist barely looked up before gesturing toward a door labeled Karen Harper, HOA president. Of course, she was the president. That explained everything. I didn't bother knocking. Karen looked up from behind her desk, feigning surprise. "Oh, hi there. What can I do for you?" I dropped the letter onto her desk. "Cut the crap, Karen. You reported my own vandalized mailbox as an HOA violation." She leaned back, smiling sweetly. "Well, we can't have eyesores in the neighborhood, can we?" My patience snapped. "I'm not part of the HOA, Karen. You have zero authority over my property." Her smile widened. "Actually, the HOA recently revised its charter to include all homes in Maplewood Heights. You're officially part of it now." I blinked. "That's not legal." She shrugged. "Take it up with the board. But in the meantime, you'll need to fix that mailbox immediately or face daily fines." I clenched my jaw. "You do realize that I reported the vandalism to the police, right?" Her face twitched. Just for a second. Then she let out a dramatic sigh. "Oh dear. If only you had a clearer image of the person responsible." I took a step closer, lowering my voice. "I have enough." Her smug expression flickered again. I smirked. "By the way, Officer Reynolds will be stopping by later today. I'm sure he'll have plenty of questions for you." Her confidence wavered. For the first time, Karen looked worried. Later that evening, a police car pulled up in front of Karen's house. I watched from my porch as Officer Reynolds knocked on her door. She answered, and for the next 20 minutes, they talked. Or rather, he talked while she flailed her arms in exaggerated protest. By the time he left, she looked shaken. The next morning, another notice appeared on my door. Not an HOA fine. Not another violation. A simple, handwritten note. "Truce." I stared at it for a moment before crumpling it in my fist. She wasn't sorry. She was scared. Good. Over the next few weeks, Karen's behavior changed. She stopped looking my way when she walked outside. The HOA backed off. The petty violations stopped. It wasn't long before I heard rumors that she was resigning as HOA president. Then, one afternoon, a moving truck pulled up in front of her house. I sipped my coffee, watching as she directed the movers, her face red with frustration. She saw me watching and scowled, but I just smiled. Game over. With Karen gone, Maplewood Heights felt normal again. No more stupid HOA notices. No more passive-aggressive notes. No more smashed mailboxes. I replaced my mailbox, upgraded my security cameras, and enjoyed the newfound silence. For the first time in months, I could park in my own driveway without worry, and it felt damn good.